Psalm 46 is a beloved psalm, and it's one that people have turned to many, many times over the centuries at time of trouble. And we see why when we start reading the first few verses. Verse 1 goes this way: God is our refuge and strength, a present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and though the mountains quake at the swelling pride. So he says it doesn't matter what happens, and he pulls out some of the most devastating possibilities. This, by the way, is very similar to Habakkuk chapter 3, verses 17 to 19, that basically says the same thing, that no matter what happens, no matter how devastating things might be, nevertheless, they're going to trust in the Lord. Both the psalmist here and in Habakkuk. But as we see these verses, you notice what he says about God. He says, first of all, God is our refuge. He is the one, like a fort. He's the one we go to for protection from the troubles and the difficulties of life. He is our strength, so he's not just a hiding place. He's also a place of empowerment. He will empower us to live the life. And he's a very present help in time of trouble. So if you want somebody on your team when you're going through the hard times, no one's better than God. He's a very present help in a time of trouble. So I'm not going to fear, he says. I mean, it's easy to fear when things are fearful, especially the very devastating things he talks about here: the earth changing, the mountains slipping into the heart of the sea, the waters roar and foaming. It's a great flood or something like that. And he says, I'm not going to fear because I know that the Lord is my help. He's my refuge, and he is my strength. And he's a help in the time of trouble. So during those times, he turns to the one source that can see him through the difficulties of life, even the devastating times, the tragedies of life, is the Lord that he turns to. He also turns in verses 4 to 5 to look at the power of God. And these beautiful poetic words, verse 4, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. What a pretty picture. There's a river, he says, so that those streams may glad the city of God. So here's a metaphor, a picture, first of all, the city of God, the dwelling place of God, the place where God is. But there's something that gives him joy, and there's that river that does that. Then he goes on to say the holy dwelling place is the Most High. God is in the midst of her; she will not be moved. This river of life that he speaks of here only has the power to give life because God is in it, and so these very things give him joy, and he is our power as well. And then he gives us an invitation. You drop down to verse 10. It says, "Cease striving and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold." I think people have turned to this verse as much as almost any of the Psalms because we all strive at times. We all are under stress. We're all battling something in our lives at times. And in our anxiety and in our tenseness, we need a release of some kind. And where is that release found? Well, he says, "Cease striving and know that I am God." This reminds us of the passage at the Dead Sea when the people of Israel were needing to cross the Red Sea, not the Dead Sea, but the Red Sea. And they're right there with their back against the Red Sea, and Pharaoh's army is coming at them. And the Lord basically says, quit complaining and do what I tell you to do. And this is kind of what this psalm is about here too. If in the midst of our striving, there's two things we are to do. He says we're to cease striving, so stop being anxious, kind of like Philippians chapter 4. Stop being anxious, and on a positive note, turn to the Lord and know that he is God. He is not wringing his hands. He is not disturbed. He is not concerned that things are going to fall apart and he won't know what to do. He is God, and he will be exalted among the nations. Even though right now it may not look like it's going to happen, it will happen. He'll be exalted among the nations because he is God. When you know you have a God like this, When we come to the difficulties of life that he described earlier in the psalm, we know we don't have to fall apart. We don't have to give up. We don't have to become people that are controlled by our emotions and our sadness. We are people that can have the river of delight that delights God himself because we know who he is. Cease striving and know that I am God. What a message that God gives us.